Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 436 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Eric Plasker. And if you want to hear about the history and the founding of chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have Eric Plasker on. I think he is second in command for the most interviews ever on Chiro Hustle podcast. But before we jump into 436 of this the show, I want to let you all know the big why. Why does Chiro Hustle do what we do? Why are we so consistent? Why do we really care about this beautiful profession of chiropractic? Number one, we protect freedom of speech. As you've been able to tell over the past couple of years, that's been a huge concern. Number two, we protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what this is, go Google or go on your favorite search engine and find out what BJ Palmer Sacred Trust is. You'll know a whole lot more about chiropractic and why we do the work that we do. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. Once again, it's a big word. Go look it up. And then thirdly or fourthly, whatever we're at on this, we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence, and that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And I think that there's a lot of philosophy that goes into chiropractic. So maybe go look up the 33 principles also, so you understand the baseline philosophies of chiropractic. And with that said, we got Dr. Eric Plasker on today, and we're going to talk about an article that he recently wrote called The Chiropractic Journey from Persecuted to Essential. And I think that there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to shine spotlight on and be able to let you feature some of the body of this write-up. And we'll put the link into the description too, so you guys can actually read this and have access to this article as well. But it was published in Masters of Health, issue 73, October 2022, this month. And Dr. Eric Plasker, welcome.
Thank you, my friend. You're doing great work. You're hustling as usual. And I'm seeing you here online. I've seen you in the last couple of weeks in Atlanta. I've seen you in New Jersey recently. I've seen you other places. So thank you for all you do, putting on the miles, logging the miles to make a difference, because you're definitely doing that.
Well, thank you so much. And I believe that there's a better future for chiropractic, and there's a better future for people to have access to information. And I think that people need more access to understanding, like where chiropractic started, where we're going. And I think that this article you wrote has a lot to say about it. And, just even dating back from 1895 when the profession started, and, adding additions in here from Louis Pasteur and the germ theory of disease and terrain theory. I think that'd be a great opener, starting, and then we'll just kind of chronologically go through this article and talk about the slander approach that they try to remove and eliminate chiropractic from the medical world. But I think let's start with the terrain theory. And who was the first to jump into this world? Was it D.D. Palmer?
Well, not the first, but Camp and I don't have the article in front of me. I can't remember the other guy's name. It's in the article, but these were French and German scientists that and I'm going to actually start in the present, and then I'm going to go back to 1895, and I'm going to tell you why. It is for the first time in maybe a century, the terrain theory is getting a lot of press. People are talking about, I'm not afraid of germs anymore. The germ theory, it's about the terrain. Everybody's got bacteria in them. Everybody's got viruses in them and on them, trillions of them in you and on you every minute, every millisecond of every day. They are necessary for life. They're necessary for chemical reactions in the body. They're necessary for immunity, digestion, and we need them. We work in harmony with them. We live in harmony with them. When the craziness hit in the world and the germaphobes tried to take over the world, and they're still trying to take over the world, they used fear. They used the germ theory of disease, which was founded way back in the 1890s and late 1880s, 1890s by Louis Pasteur and another scientist. They were talking about the germ theory. And what a lot of people don't realize is, like today, now that there's an argument again in the news about, hey, thanks, Mark, one of my favorite people too, Mark Santa, just saying hello, love you, man. We're on the same committee, working on hard for this profession. Mark Santa, one of the hardest working guys out there. We appreciate you.
Yeah, Mark always shows up.
So anyway, so we wrote an article on becoming a least vulnerable person. Everybody was talking about, you and I did a podcast on it. It went viral. People were really handing it out, putting it out there. And people started talking about the terrain theory again. And not just me, lots of people in the world, lots of scientists, some of the top scientists in the world started saying, hey, no, it's not the germ. It's not the germ. And so I went back and I started thinking about it. I started doing the research for this article because Masters of Health magazine, which I hope everybody subscribes to, it's mastersofhealthmag.com. They're doing a fantastic job. Lady Carla, Sabina, the team over there. When you go into this magazine, I know that they're going to post this. You're going to say, wow, this is a beautiful magazine. It's all about freedom of speech, the body's ability to heal itself. They cover a lot of different angles and professions, not just chiropractic. But she asked me, Lady Carla, she asked me to write an article on the history of chiropractic. And she said, can you give me 600 words on the history of chiropractic? And we've been writing an article for the last 2 years, just about, in this magazine. And they've never asked me to change anything. They have completely respected and honored my voice, which, if you know me, it's all about human potential, living at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And so I started to do the research, Jim, and I realized that at the same time in history that the germ theory was being discovered and promoted, the terrain theory was being discovered and promoted by two scientists. And a third scientist, not really a scientist, but he was positioned as a fishmongerer and a magnetic healer, a guy named D.D. Palmer, right? They positioned him as this crazy person in history. And the germ theory won this war way back in 1895. And so they got made famous because of the people that took over political medicine at that time, and the terrain theory people were squashed. Well, we decided, when looking at the history, we didn't decide, we realized that D.D. Palmer was one of the original terrain theory pioneers. If you think about that question that D.D. Palmer asked, I wanted to know why two people sitting at the same table, eating the same food, breathing the same air, with the same genetics, why did one get sick and one not get sick? That's a terrain theory question. And so he answered that question through the work that he did and through the teachings of chiropractic and the way that he taught it to the world. And it just mushroomed like crazy. But because our side, this terrain theory, I'm going to use that language here because it is an important language today. We see in our practice today, like a lot of your chiropractors, the people that are living their ideal 100-year lifestyle, that have made that transition from crisis care to lifestyle care, as we call it in the 100-year lifestyle. Their kids don't get sick as often. Their parents don't get sick as often. They don't have as many work days that they miss. They function at higher levels. They stay on the field longer without injuries. They are more resilient in so many ways. Their nervous system is working better. Their digestion is better. They make better choices. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them, most of them that we see in our practices. And so we felt like it was very important in this journey, because the title of this article is The Chiropractic Journey from Persecuted to Essential. We felt like it was extremely important that we reframed our history now that this conversation is being revisited, to let the world know that our founding father, who wrote about chiropractic and brought chiropractic to the world initially, taken over by B.J. Palmer later on, who was one of the first graduates of his school back then, Palmer Chiropractic of College of Chiropractic, that we reframed our histories, because now being essential, and this is a big part of the story. See, when we were named essential in 2020, this is a huge piece of this conversation, Jim. In 2020, we were named by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as essential. And we've always been, like I say in the article, our patients have always known we were essential. But the government just gave us confirmation that, yes, chiropractors, you are essential. You ready? They came out and said it, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So watch, it came in quietly. They could take it away just as quietly. And we have to make sure that that could never happen. We have to let the world know that chiropractic is essential. We've always been essential. Because if we lose that, it won't hurt us. I mean, it would hurt us. It won't kill us to have it taken away. But you know what? This is one of those windows of opportunity, Jim, with everything going on in the world, to reframe our history, especially considered everything that happened between 1895 and today that we're probably going to talk about.
Yeah, you said in the article here, I highlighted and did some quoting for you, is living a healthy lifestyle, eating right, and exercising are not enough if your spine and nervous system are not healthy. And down further on the page, it says, while to their patients, chiropractors have always been essential. During the height of the pandemic, chiropractors were named essential healthcare workers by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, like you said. So I'm just kind of echoing back and reiterating some of these things, but these points are really important because people think that if they're eating right, they're staying hydrated, they're exercising, and they're practicing healthy lifestyle choices, that's enough.
Yeah, and it's not enough. We have X-rays that we have taken side by side. So I have an X-ray of a 70-year-old person, two 70-year-old people. One of them has got plenty of money, beautiful person, beautiful soul, very committed type of a person to health freedom, medical freedom, the things that you and I believe in, stand for, and we fight for in so many ways. Well, this woman, she gets massages every week. She has a trainer every week. She's fit at she's, I think, 74 or 75, something like that. She's fit. She is all organic food. She takes great supplements. She meditates. She can do anything. She hyperbaric chambers, like she does everything on a regular basis. So she comes in and she's been to chiropractors. She's never made that transition, as we call it in the 100-year lifestyle, from crisis care to lifestyle care. Never made that transition, just using chiropractic care from a crisis care perspective, but doing all of these other things. And when we took her X-ray, Jim, she was in one sense, she was, excited to see it. In another sense, she was, I think, really frustrated because her spine was literally rotting away. She's got severe degeneration at C3, C4, C5, C6, fusing, L4, L5, fusing, T11, 12, fusing. And then right next to that, I put an X-ray of a guy who's been under chiropractic care, my care, for 36 years in our practice and our practices. And was under care about 4 years before that. So he's been under care for 40 years. He's got a perfect cervical curve with no degeneration. Same age. They're the same age. And we see it a lot where we see people that they think they're doing everything right and they're not taking care of their spine and nervous system. So it's become, for this person, the limiting factor for her whole life, for a woman that thought she was doing everything right.
I was just at a screening event. A lot of people that watch our show know that I go out and I schedule a ton of people in for chiropractic services. And there was a guy next to me over the weekend, and he said, why would I go to the chiropractor? I don't have any pain. And I said, well, why would you go to the dentist? Your teeth look fine too. And the dental thing kind of reflexes right on over. And I was like, so if you're going to go to the dentist, do you go just the one time and you never return? I was like, in chiropractic, we believe that you should go for cradle to grave care from first breath to last breath. And we want that for everybody. But it takes a whole lot of education and a whole lot of resources for people to know that this is really important for them. And I was like, yeah, you look great, dude. You look like you're in the gym 5 days a week. You look like you're staying good and hydrated, and you look like one of the best fit guys in this whole place. But you say you've never been to the chiropractor before, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't know if I can gauge you as being super healthy. I was like, you might want to just go check and see how your nervous system's functioning and get an image of your spine so you know how healthy you are, and continue going to the dentist too.
Yeah, it's true. And, there's an article that has gotten a lot of traffic on 100yearlifestyle.com, still does. And it's called Sick Fit People. There are a lot of very sick, fit people out there. They got a six-pack in their gut, right? Because they've been doing lots of crunches and all kinds of exercises to have a six-pack in their belly, but they have a gym bag full of drugs. And so, people need to be educated. And when you look back at a lot of the history, from persecuted to essential, going back to that, why does somebody think like that, right? Why does somebody think like that? How did they get there? And then you look at the numbers. Because we were against political medicine, not because we wanted to be. We didn't create that fight. They created that fight. We didn't create that fight. Today, like we say in the article, now we'll work with anybody and everybody. We have patients that are referred to us in our practices by MDs, naturopaths, massage therapists, physical therapists. We work great, believe it or not, with physical therapists. They want to know how we keep people coming back. The 100-year lifestyle. It's like, how do you chiropractors keep people coming back? Well, we're not making them come back. They want to come back because they realize that it is indisputable, like you said, quoting that article, it is indisputable that a healthy spine and nervous system is essential for a healthy, long life. Everyone can benefit from regular chiropractic checkups. And so when you think back about, we started getting persecuted right away because of the political medicine, and we did not want to be a part of it. I'm so grateful for our founding fathers who, and all the way up from D.D. Palmer, B.J. Palmer, wanting to stay as a unique, distinct profession, and Dr. Sid Williams and people like that kept us separate and distinct. Why has that been important? You think about, where did osteopathy go? Osteopathy got absorbed. They wanted to just belong. And so now they barely exist. Even today, we have a patient, one of the guys that my son, Dr. Corey, who I work with here, that he played soccer with. I've been adjusting him on and off over the years when I was the team chiropractor for the soccer teams. Well, he decided, because of his family, that he wanted to go to osteopath school. Well, we saw him they still play soccer. They still think they're going to win the World Cup, these guys. They're really fun to be around. They got that soccer in their blood. And I was out there on the field. I was watching the game one Saturday or Sunday. And I said to him, Jad, so how's it going with school? And he said, honestly, he says, Dr. Plasker, he says, I'm really frustrated with it. I said, why? He says, because it's totally symptomatic based. It's the drug companies have taken over my school. It's like, you have this symptom, you give this drug. And that's what osteopathy has become. And so, he's frustrated. The naturopaths got absorbed in so many ways, or eliminated. And they got attacked like the chiropractors. But what's great about our profession, when you look at the history, and this is how we stated in the article as we go through the history, and I really think you should read it. Don't just read the headline, really read it. Get how it's all framed. It's 100% true, and it's a framing, a perspective that is also 100% true, and a really important understanding that we need to give our people. Because when you look at how we fought, we were persecuted, 20,000 prosecutions. And I think it was the first 30 years, 15 or 30 years. I forget what it says. I don't have the article in front of me. But that's a lot of persecution. So many chiropractors going to jail, 20% were incarcerated. And we kept fighting, and we fought to get licensure. And we never compromised the principle of the doctors that were fighting, didn't compromise the principles. They stayed true. And it's because of that we still have our existence, I believe. And then when you look at over time, with all of the attacks and all of the slander that ended up coming out of it in 1963 when a formal slander campaign started, because we stayed true, there was, and I love this part of our history. People say, why don't you chiropractors have more research? Which that's changing today rapidly. Heidi Havoc, who we work with on the strategic plan, the Chiro Futures Committee, chirofutures.org, I think is the website. You probably know better than me. She's doing amazing work leading that committee. Stephanie Sullivan at Life University is another person doing amazing research at Life University, and others doing amazing research out there. But in the early days, we were trying to stay out of jail, man. And so it cost a lot of money to survive. And because we couldn't do the research, which is never really talked about this, and I'm going to shut up in just a second because I need to hear what you have to say here, is that our technique masters, they would get into battles, the microscope that our leaders were under back then. Could you imagine the microscope that they were under to stay out of jail? So it became my technique is better than your technique on the ground research field that made us super strong today. And now our diversity of technique, like we say in our strategic plan, we say that, it's unity without uniformity. Our ability now to have so many different techniques to refer people to, it's no longer chiropractic first, drug second, surgery last. It's chiropractic first, second, and third. Then with drugs and surgery when necessary down the road. So that's such an important part of our history because that was the research field of the day.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle. Well, I'm going to just throw out the numbers that you were referring to. There are 15,000 prosecutions, of which 20% resulted in incarceration, which I think is important for people to know. And, it's also in here that that from 1913 to 1974, the chiropractic profession was successful in securing separate licensing status in all 50 states. And now they are in the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico to grant and regulate practice of chiropractic, which I think is really important too, because it planted a flag in each state, regulating chiropractic as unique and distinct from the rest of the medical world. And
And think about this, like you said, and I just did the math in my head. I hadn't done this math before. I've done other math, but 1913 to 1976. So what did you say?
It was 1913 to 1974.
1974. So that's 61 years. 61 years it took to get licensure in all 50 states. Talk about a persistent, insanely persistent profession. You got to love being a part of that. You know, and then when you talk about the lawsuit, right? In 1963, when the AMA declared their slander campaign, organized campaign against our profession, and you have the article in front of you, you could read the 4 or 5 things they were convicted of, basically. But that lawsuit, the strategic manipulation of data information against the chiropractic profession, from 1963 to 1976, right? So that's 13 years. And then the lawsuit settled in 87. Mm-hmm. So it's a grand total of 24 years of slander that spanned generations, relentless slander. And to be able to still be a profession, to be a profession that is growing today, that is probably stronger today, that is not without problems. We have our challenges and we have our issues. But I think it's important that our profession, especially at a time like this, that we realize that we are not second-class citizens. We are first-class citizens. If we weren't relevant, we would have been gone a century ago. Are you kidding me? We are relevant because we have the truth. I was saying for years, Jim, in talks, people used to attack me for this. I would say, you know what? We're the favorites. We're not the underdogs. We're the favorites. And people would say to me, Dr. Plasker, how could you say we're the favorites? Everybody's attacking us. Are you kidding me? And I would say to them, well, if we weren't the favorites, they would leave us alone. But we're the people's favorites, which is why we continue to grow, which I think will accelerate our growth. It's why we continue to grow today.
Well, I rarely ever reference material while I'm doing interviews, but this article you wrote is so dynamic, and it details a linear perspective of how chiropractic won. And I think that that's really important, as it goes all the way back to the origin of the story of chiropractic, but it takes us all the way till present. And it's a very short read, but it's full of critical content. And I put in the chat there, it's mastersofhealthmag.com. So go check that out, everybody that's watching.
Right. It's pages 8 to 21 is where the article actually starts.
But I think the part that really hits home is that chiropractic won on August 27th, 1987. The AMA was found guilty in the United States District Court for having conspired to destroy the chiropractic profession. I don't think I've ever spoken those words before on our show with historical reference. I've made, knowledge of it, and I've made reference to it. But that is such a powerful thing, is that the chiropractic was trying to be destroyed by the American Medical Association
and others.
But the slander, like you said, went on for 24 years, and that's generational. I guess for me not knowing how to really phrase this, but it was generational. It basically gave chiropractic negative brand equity in the healthcare arena. So people believed their neighbors, cousins, daughters, bosses, that chiropractic wasn't good for you, because they were so indoctrinated with this messaging around the slander of chiropractic as a profession.
Yeah. So you use the word brand equity, which is a really big word, right? But you think about that negative brand equity, it's way more than that. If you go back to the early 1900s, it's criminal equity, criminal brand equity, to slanderous brand equity. So it's to overcome all of that. And if you have it in front of you, read what they were found guilty of. There's 4 bullet points and then a 5th one underneath. So you can really get an idea about this. So I call these people that are still having these, I call them prehistoric beliefs. And I call the people with love and affection, I call them prehistoric creatures that still have these prehistoric beliefs, because we all know the world has changed.
Well, the 4 bullet points were to undermine chiropractic educational institutions, number 1. Number 2, hide evidence of the uses and benefits of chiropractic care. Number 3, undercut insurance programs for patients of chiropractic. Number 4, subvert government inquiries into the efficacy of chiropractic care. So the 4 things that are titled there, those were the agendas that they were trying to basically pull apart and infiltrate and undermine and take control of and be subversive, and to create a narrative. One of my favorite people in chiropractic, his name is Roberto Monaco. He says, if we don't tell them the story about chiropractic, someone will make one up about us.
Well, which is what's been happening. So the story about us has been made up. And so what is important and this is why I wanted to tell this story, especially now in this current moment in history. This is a window. This is a window in history. And we have to be able to recognize these windows. I've been very fortunate over the years to be able to be tuned into windows like this. And I have been frustrated at times to see windows close on our profession. I do think with what we're doing with the strategic planning committee that we have been on, it's moving steady the course, slow for sure, but steady the course, and hopefully beginning to pick up momentum. Things like what we're doing with 100yearlifestyle.com, things like the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress does, things like Life University does through their public relations campaigns, and other schools as well, that where there's a lot of great information going out in the world. And people need to understand this story. Our conversations in our practice and in our practices, because our doctors have been talking about this, the people that we work with at the 100-Year Lifestyle, we've been talking about, we knew this was coming. So we've been talking about what to do about it once it hits. And once it hit and we could announce to the world that, okay, yeah, it really did happen. They didn't pull it from us, but it actually really did hit. That, okay, what do we do with it as an industry? And it's changing the conversation with our patients. Our patients are really excited about it because we have so many advocates out there. We have passionate warriors, advocates, chiropractic advocates out there. And many times for them, they tell their story and they advocate to their friends and their families based on their own personal success, which is fantastic. But the way that this was written, as you talk about the linear way that it was written, it equips them to just say, here, this is why, in addition to getting amazing results, here, you got to read this. This is why you have misinformation, disinformation about the chiropractic industry. This is why. This is how it happened. This is what you need to know about it. This is why families are going. This is why generations are going. This is why athletes are going. This is why they're doing it for lifestyle care, not just crisis care. This is why they're the first choice for people now and not the last choice for people. And that's what we want the world to know. Because while all of this is happening, Jim, here's the other side of what's going on with this window that we're in today. Here's the window. The allopathic world is literally shooting themselves in the foot. We know it's out there, and all the media is reporting about the trust in their primary care doctors, and people's primary care doctors is crumbling. We see people all the time. We have people literally walk in and say, I'm looking for a chiropractor. I'm never going back to my doctor, which I'm not necessarily going to take that position or stance, but this is what they tell us. They say, I'm sick of the system and I don't know where to go to. So I'm looking for a chiropractor. Who can I go to? We get a lot of these people now. We position ourselves this way. We talk about being people's first choice, but that's part of the window of why now this information is so vital to get to every patient that you're seeing and everybody in your community.
Well, when I go out and do the scheduling events that I do for chiropractors across the nation, I say a couple of reasons people don't take charge of their health and they don't really make an impact on their personal life is because, number one, they don't know where to go or who to trust. And I said that foundation's been eroding now. And I do know that there's a couple of things that we will do for you. We'll do a proper exam of you. We'll do a consultation so you can talk to us about any health concerns you have under the sun. And we'll do a proper set of x-rays on you. We'll tell you what's going on. We'll tell you how much concern there is. We'll tell you how we can help you. And we call this the relationship builder. If you come in for these first 2 visits and you realize we're a good fit, hey, you found your doctor. If you come in for these 2 visits and you realize this isn't the right place for you, look, there's no strings attached for further care. But I guarantee you one thing, and I leave them on the cliff's edge. I say, you're going to like us. And it's our job to earn your business. And when you come in, we're going to tell you how we can best help you with your health and get you to a place where you feel like you can trust a healthcare provider.
Yeah. And it's why you get such great results when you do screenings. I know why doctors hire you to do that. It's important. And if you don't like to do them and you need to get out in the community, there's no better person to bring into your world than James Chester. He does an amazing job, passionate about it all. And, you've been to all these communities, Jim. So that, when we say it is indisputable that a healthy spine and nervous system is essential for a healthy, long life period. And what is the result of the other side? The other side, we see one thing that when we talk about this, this leverage of longevity that we is a big part of our educational world. There are assisted living centers on every corner, in every community, everywhere. And these are people that did not know they were going to live this long, so they did not know how to take care of themselves to ensure quality of life as they age. And they are rotting away, and it's sad. And they are wiping out the retirement accounts that they thought they were going to live and enjoy their life with. And they are wiping out their children's accounts to pay for their care because they didn't know they were going to live this long and didn't know how to take care of themselves to enjoy quality of life as they age. And we're seeing the results of this allopathic world. It's no wonder people don't trust them. People are sick of the system and they are looking for a new system. And so it is indisputable. And we have to tell that story because I haven't been in their board meetings, but I do know that Pfizer, Moderna, they are not going to tell this story. They're going to tell a different story.
And to close out, I'm going to tell everybody this. When I'm talking to people in the public and I'm toe to toe with society quite a bit, I tell them, if I don't tell you the truth about chiropractic today, somebody eventually will close you for drugs or surgery.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really a part of telling people the truth. And that's why we protect freedom of speech and chiropractic with our show. And we protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. And we support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. And all these things are absolutely essential to the trajectory of where we're going with this beautiful profession of chiropractic. So with that, Dr. Eric Plasker, thank you for being episode 436 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I know we covered a lot in this episode. Go check out mastersofhealthmag.com. Read the small write-up that Dr. Plasker has put together. It's full of amazing information. And I don't speak, really highly about most things I read, but this is impactful. And it's really important that people understand the linear approach to where we are today with the chiropractic profession. And you've done just exactly that. So I want you to have a great night as you are down there in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to sign off today from beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado.
Love and appreciate you, man. Thanks, everybody. Spread the word.
Thanks for being my guest today, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.